Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the morning dump. It's Thursday, July 23rd. I'm your host, Jose Galison, and this is the kitty of the day, Delilah. She might look pretty familiar to you guys. I mean, I've shown her to you before, but she actually looks just like a kitty I had the other day, Ren. I don't think it was yesterday, but the day before. That's actually her mom. Her mom is, like I said, retired now. But this is Delilah. She's had a few litters. She makes some pretty babies. She's a good mama, a chocolate tortie, a sweet lady. We got like 3 generations of like chocolate torties now. Pretty kitties. But with that, guys, if you like seeing my hot takes, typically around 11 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, when we're on time, when we make it. We're not always there, but we shoot for it. Or if you just like seeing the kitty of the day, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when we're going live and when we're dropping new videos, whether or not that's on time or not. So that bell will help you out there. With that, we'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day. I'm all right.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to white lights.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
Crazy evil.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a good Thursday. We're almost to the weekend. I have plenty to go through with you guys today. I always say plenty. I always say that. Actually, going to try to keep it a little on the shorter side today. I don't know why I say I got plenty, although it's still a lot. It's still a lot packed into a shorter period of time, but probably around an hour and a half or so is what we'll shoot for today. Got somewhere to be, but still happy to be here to talk to you, beautiful people. We'll start the show off as we always do with some icebreaker content, something to ease our way in, more of the fun, the funny, gen pop slop, that sort of stuff. And then we will get over to our foreign policy coverage, go into the latest there, and then we will go into the first titled segment, which is kind of sort of in the foreign policy realm still, but it's a little bit more important, so it gets its own segment. We're going to ZOG Becomes Undeniable is what I'm calling it. We'll be talking about the latest vote on the NDAA and some of the stuff surrounding that. And then we will get into Spook Stuff, which is kind of like a grab bag of a few different things. We were going to do it yesterday. I'm glad we saved it till today because actually another story jumped into that bag, and actually the leading story. So definitely formed up a whole lot better, given a little more time. And then we'll see where we're at with time on this one. And then we will go into the secret history of Polymarket, part 3, digging into that, if I still have your interest in that. So that's Whitney Webb's piece we've been picking away at. I don't know, maybe today will probably be the last one. Maybe we'll keep going unless someone really wants it. So sound off in the chat if you're enjoying our digging into the Polymarket stuff. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into some icebreaker content. Oh, quick, a lot of people tease me about this, but I do like to, you never know when you have new people in here. Quick little update, or not update, housekeeping kind of deal. Like, hey, if you're new here, what I call this is an info dump format is what we call this, kind of throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall. A lot of tweets, a lot of articles, a lot of clips, a lot of, yada, yada, yada. And a lot of this is stuff we're kind of processing in real time. Now, I know most of you don't show up for the live experience, which is what the show is intended to be. And to accommodate you, you great people, what I do is I put timestamps in the video/podcast description. That way you can jump around from topics and you can avoid the chat banter, making it more like a normal podcast. I keep the chat towards the end of each segment, so you can just jump right on past it as soon as you start hearing me interacting with the chat to the next topic. If you are here for the live experience, I try to give you guys at least one good morning. After that, you got to catch my interest or catch my wallet. Wallet being super chat. Also, if you do want to catch my wallet, I am pretty good at telling who's a patron, who's not, and I'll be honest, I am biased, so I will probably bring your chat up more there too. Top left-hand corner, if you want to become one of those people, you get a whole host of other perks as well, which I will list at the end of the episode. But with that, let's go ahead and get into some Icebreaker content. This is nothing new to us. We've been, anyone who's been part of this audience for any period of time. Nothing new, the victim game, but once again, it's just kind of, hey, here we are. We're in icebreaker territory. We're goofing, just showing a crazy example of victim mentality. And who would have guessed that it's the star crowd, the small hat crowd. Apparently there's like an Anne Frank slam poetry something or other. Here, let's watch this clip together. Just found this recently, figured I'd go through this with you guys.
Every day is a battle. When you're proud, when you're queer, when you have a vagina. Every day in our lives we are fighting a war.
Okay, now let me back up. Some of you may have missed that. What this is Slam Frank, the Anne Frank Afro-Latin hip-hop musical is what you just heard. I'll read those lyrics just for you guys if you missed that. Every day is a battle. When you're brown, when you're queer, when you have a vagina. Then what else we got? Then we got every day in our minds, which yet is in your minds. That seems to be where the problem is. We are fighting a war. It's kind of crazy someone would say that out loud and not realize the issue there. We're fighting a war in our minds. Do you not see the problem? All right, whatever. Let's keep going. We are fighting a war. And then, now Slam Frank. The tweet here from Clara, so I don't want a concerning one, but this is real. I checked twice just to make sure who actually goes to see this. I'll double check too. Right now I'm going to Google, do Slam Frank. Is this real? Is it real? Yes, it's a 2025 off-Broadway satirical hip-hop musical based on the story of Anne Frank. So it is real. They say it's satirical. So maybe there's actually more to this. Maybe, maybe there is something. I did point out it was a little bit too on the nose. I hesitate to say it because it is a theater world, so you just kind of assume it's going to be kind of whack. But I don't know, because I'm reading the wiki thing here. It says 2025 off-Broadway satirical hip-hop musical. So if it's satirical and like in the way I'm thinking of, that's actually kind of hilarious. It's created by Andrew Fox and Joel Sinensky after a Twitter thread about Anne Frank's white privilege went viral in 2022. So that right there, that is kind of hilarious. So I guess it depends on what kind of angle they're taking on it. If I would find it hilarious. I mean, are they being ironic here? Because they said it's satirical. So they say it's a show within a show of an ultra-progressive theater troupe that reimagines Frank as a pansexual Latina named Anita Franco, along with Peter Van Daan as a non-binary dancer. While the show itself is purportedly satirical, its viral social media promotion with snippets of the show and tongue-in-cheek commentary never acknowledges the satire. Okay, well, you did it. That's actually pretty smart. So they get people like me to go, look at these woke homos. And in fact, they're actually making fun of the woke homos. So well played, Slam Frank. Well played. Some editorials or op-eds from Jewish newspapers written before the show's debut to criticize the show's disrespectful treatment of Anne Frank. This is actually kind of awesome. I actually thought this was going to be really gay. Unless I'm missing it, it really is woke. But I actually think this is just sounds like someone who's just hilarious. It sounds like this was something written by one of us or something. This criticized the shows. Okay, in May 2026, a Slam Frank cast album became okay, whatever. I think that's all that's relevant now. I actually legitimately kind of want to see this. So the show is based on a Twitter debate from 2022 regarding whether or not diarist and a Holocaust victim Anne Frank had white privilege. The initial tweets were widely condemned. Okay, yeah, that's the best about all the context we have. But I really want to watch this. This actually sounds pretty fucking awesome. What do you guys think? Does this sound great to you? I think we should almost do a Slam Frank viewing party or something. All right, moving on. We have this victim mentality, although I think it was satirical, obviously. But kind of plague off that, here's a real life story that came. When did this happen? This was like last month. I kind of missed it. So here's Tim Anderson sharing this. As the rising tide of anti-Semitism scam exposed once again, Florida prosecutors seek a significant prison term for Israeli Michael Ron David Kadar, convicted of making thousands of hoax threats against Jewish community centers, schools, and airlines. So you always hear about this anti-Semitic problem or whatever. Well, here you go. Here's once again the battle in their minds, as they said in Slam Frank. It seems to be more the issue here. So once again, this is Michael Ron David Kadar, been convicted of thousands of hoax threats. I'll give that a retweet for any of those who want to dig further into the story. We're just an icebreaker story here. We're not going to read the full piece. But with that, let's roll through the chat, checking on you people, and then we will get into foreign policy. Good morning, user chathead. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Tower Gang NPC. Good morning. Good morning, King David. Good morning. Good morning. Reminding you guys to smash the like button and subscribe. Good morning, Tom33. Called you guys all Nick Dogs. Good morning, Bug Fight. Good morning. Good morning. I already said good morning to you. You don't get another one. Good morning, Mustache. Saying good morning, folks, to you wonderful people. Good morning. Hey, say what now? Bug Fights is still rough. Still dealing with the kidney stones. Hope it gets better soon so you can get the moolah. I understand the dilemma. Good morning, John Black. Good morning. Good morning. What else we got? Yeah, see, Mustache agrees. He's an expert anti-Semitic feller here. It's hilarious. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, OG Matzo Ball says, after learning Rumble was a Vance Teal-backed operation, I don't know whether to go there after my 2 minutes and like on YouTube or just stay on the YouTube. I mean, really, it kind of makes no... obviously, my thoughts... how do I put this? When it comes to something like Rumble, I've never really dug too deep into it, but I've heard lots of stories of some of the people on the inside and some of the connections and this and that, and it's like... Yeah, it does kind of feel like this is almost a ticking time bomb, but this is kind of the game, I guess, when it comes to these, censorship game, I guess you could say. They provide the alternative, and then they control the alternative, but, but essentially it's kind of the same idea as like a limb hang. So it's like, it is somewhat controlled, but it's less controlled, so it is preferable, and, at some point they'll probably blow their load, and some other alternative will need to be made, and ad infinitum, keep going. So, it's just kind of the alternative. It is preferable. It's just kind of like if you're looking for something that I don't know isn't as sensory as YouTube. Although YouTube's been better lately. They still get me for some annoying stuff here and there, but they've been a lot better lately too. So, I don't know, it's good having the alternatives, but obviously don't ever really get too comfortable that like, oh, this really is a free speech platform. That none of them really are. Hell, even some of the ones with the old censorship stuff was all the people, when you look at the tippy top, are questionable, I guess. Trying to think of who else it was. Wasn't there like we talked about this show, there was some guy that was, I don't know if it was Palantir or what he was. He was some sort of, whatever. I don't even remember. I can't remember what that guy did. I'm not even going to talk about that. Now I'm talking out my ass, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Anyways, the idea of like alternatives and how a lot of those ends up being guys that, they're associated with Peter Thiel 2 or whatever. Like it looks spooky. It kind of is what it is when you get to that level. So, good morning, Gotis. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, mustaching genius idea. It is pretty great. I really like it. What else we got? Good morning, Ikenba. This is squeezing in his dump here. Good morning. Good morning. Tom says we'll never have a real independent platform. It takes too much money to make one that doesn't suck complete ass to use. And then he also says Rumble won't let me say the no word without the little dude over the eye. We have even there, like even some of the stuff. I know it sounds ridiculous. They're like, how do I put this? In a real way, like hard R-ing is kind of a real good free speech test. So a lot of people are like, oh, that's childish, but it's like, well, it really is. If it's like, I mean, if I'm having to be on a platform and even just say the N-word, like as I am right now, instead of saying the actual word, that's like the idea that like mouse sounds. I'm not like even in this given circumstance, I'm not referring to another human being. Like there's no hate, there's no nothing. So it's like completely nonsensical. So even the idea that we have to say N-word on YouTube, and you guys know I'm a grown up. I don't care. I'll just say the word. But yeah, it is what it is. So I mean, just the fact that I have to play this silly game. All right, let's get into some foreign policy. And I need to not get too sucked down in minutiae so I can get out of here at a good time. Seems these days, whatever, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get out of here early. That's when I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna really vamp today. All right, let's get into the latest in foreign policy. We got the Yemeni blockade. There looks like they are really about that life. So because there was kind of murmurs of like, well, they only said it and they haven't really done it. Recently. Well, now they're doing it. Yemeni forces attacked 2 Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea. Yemeni forces have launched attacks on 2 Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea as part of the enforcement of the new maritime blockade on Saudi Arabia, according to an announcement from Yahya Saree, the spokesman for the military wing of Ansar Allah, also known as the Houthis. Yemeni armed forces carried out a qualitative military operation targeting 2 Saudi oil tankers that violated the blockade imposed by the armed forces in the Red Sea, Saree said, according to Yemen's Saba news agency. Saree identified the tankers that were targeted as the Encelia and the Layla. A maritime security source told Reuters the Encelia transmitted a distress call via VHF, reporting it had been struck by a missile while operating near the Saudi Red Sea port of Jizan and was on fire. Saree said the attacks were carried out with a number of ballistic and cruise missiles as well as drones. He also claimed the Yemeni armed forces forced approximately 10 ships to retreat and return. Since the blockade started on Monday, a move that came 1 week after Saudi Arabia bombed the Sana'a International Airport in Yemen. Trump suggested Tuesday, that he could restart a bombing campaign he waged against Ansar Allah, last year. So not great. And if you've been following the show, you know that we got a lot of lumps there. I say we, I mean the United States military took a lot of lumps there. Came away looking really foolish, so they look all the more silly playing this tough guy game right now. But hey, that's what this game is. Just ridiculous when you actually pay attention. And unfortunately, I got more news on the dead. We got an ID on another soldier. We got a 3rd soldier killed by an Iranian missile attack in Jordan on July 17th, has been ID'd. And the IRGC claims it inflicted more U.S. casualties. So it sounds like perhaps we should be, in a week or so or however long it takes. This seems to be the standard. We see these claims from the IRGC of casualties, and then usually the U.S. will kind of downplay, but like and then in a few days it'll be like yeah, there's some dead guys. So expect some more dead guys. But let's focus on the one we actually know. We have soldiers. The Sergeant Angel Rampersad, 28 of Ozone Park, New York, was initially reported as missing, but remains have been found that are believed to be hers. The remains of the 3 soldiers killed in Jordan and 1 killed in Iraq on July 18th arrived in the U.S. on Wednesday during a dignified transfer at Dover Air Base in Delaware, which Trump attended. He claimed the soldiers had said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, though there was no evidence that Tehran was pursuing a nuclear bomb before the June 2025 war or the current war the U.S. and Israel launched on February 28th. I kind of want to find that quote because that's kind of crazy. I'm wondering if he just meant like generally. He's just saying generally soldiers have been telling this. But if he's trying to say like these people, you're like, wow, that's a wild claim. We're going to Dover, Trump told reporters during the transfer, according to CBS. Some of you are going with us to honor our heroes, and they are indeed great heroes, actually. They said, and all of them said very strongly, we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon, so we're going to honor them. It's one of the hardest things to do. For me, it's one of the hardest things to do as a president, but has to be done. Okay, there you go. There's the I guess more clearer context of what he meant with that quote there. So weird thing to say, but I do think, I guess the idea would be that he is kind of saying generally that just by the fact that they are in the military and this is part of the current military mission, that they, in a metaphorical sense, said it very strongly. What I would imagine if pushed would be the claim here. So I don't think he's actually claiming these ones literally individually said that, because I highly doubt that, and that would be insane. Either way, still kind of comes off as gross to me. IRGC on Wednesday said that it carried out more attacks on U.S. bases in Jordan and damaged helicopters and inflicted casualties on U.S. troops. IRGC said a strike on a U.S. troop accommodation facility resulted in an unspecified number of American personnel being killed or wounded. So far, the U.S. military has neither confirmed nor denied any U.S. casualties in the Iranian attacks. The Pentagon had not disclosed the fact that dozens of U.S. troops were injured in Jordan in the weeks leading up to the deadly July 17 attacks, and only admitted that nearly 100 were injured after the New York Times reported on the casualties. So they said an accommodation facility is what the Iran... it sounds kind of like something along the lines of barracks, which we covered this show recently. That the United States actually has targeted one of their like conscript sort of barracks of some sort. So weren't even like, so these were the specific guys who even additionally were conscripts to the military, the Iranian military. I think they were going through training or something along those lines, and they hit those barracks. So even almost more fucked up than like striking just a normal military barracks. Which, I mean, a military barracks is, generally speaking, a valid military target. But it's kind of one of those things that people kind of poo-poo because it kind of comes off as dishonorable. Also, many of you guys may remember the thing that gets repeated like ad nauseum by many of the war hawks about Lebanon, about Hezbollah attacking our Marine barracks. Well, here you fucking go. So as we hear likely some molding in days to come of probably barracks or something alike being attacked, and all this whining and crying coming from the U.S. side of the U.S. administration side of things, bear all that in mind, that they're the one who crossed that Rubicon. The United States attacked a conscript area first. They've been the one in every one of these instances that has essentially initiated like things that are normally considered not allowed in war, like when it comes to attacking civilian infrastructure. And Iran has been essentially every time just been responding. So, just keep that in mind with all this. I think it's kind of worthwhile. I don't want to ever fucking again the stupid fucking, Hezbollah attacked a Marines barracks or whatever. The Marine barracks, it wasn't like it was in the United States. It was in a foreign country and when some hostilities were going on in a place they had no business really being. So, obviously I wish those guys hadn't died, to be very clear. But anyways, I just find it all ridiculous. Like, all this is so fucking stupid, and it just seems transparent. Likely in days to come, we're probably going to hear lots of crying about the fact that essentially troops were targeted in their barracks or something like that, which is crazy to think of. Like, I remember when I was deployed, kind of wild. Usually the way those deployed locations are kind of set up, you just kind of got your like spots where you're just kind of chilling. You go do your shift, you come back. Like, it's just kind of wild, the idea of like actual like barracks being hit and stuff. It is kind of nuts, but this is a circumstance we find ourselves in, so not good. Moving on, we got more threats coming from Trump. He's threatening to destroy one bridge or power plant in Iran. A war crime for every ship targeted in Strait of Hormuz. Trump on Wednesday threatened to destroy one bridge or power plant inside Iran for every ship that's attacked by Iranian forces in Strait of Hormuz as the U.S.-Iran war continues to rage. Which, by the way, for those who don't recall, we've already crossed this Rubicon. It's like the United States military, where they've gone after civilian infrastructure. They've already destroyed a number of bridges. I think the most recent bridge, they killed like two, I think they were like high school girls or something, if I'm recalling correctly. So, just awful shit. Trump, but from this point forward, anytime the Islamic Republic of Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be missile, rocket, drone, or any other device or weapon, the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in the capital city of Tehran, Trump wrote on Truth Social. In response, an unnamed Iranian official quoted by Iranian media said that Iran would respond to any further attacks on its infrastructure by targeting infrastructure elsewhere in the region. You see how this game is being played? Like, it keeps getting elevated, and then they just keep going like, okay, bet. Like, sure. Like they literally have the advantage here. They have home field advantage. We have all of our bases in the all of the allies in the region that are helping out as well, just right around them. And we're on the other side of the world. So, just pretty fucking stupid. Iran Mirror's news agency said that an Iranian military source warned that if the Americans target a bridge or a power plant in Iran, Islamic Republic will reciprocally attack infrastructure and bridges in the region, including the energy facilities in which the U.S. has interests. Energy facilities, that's probably talking about gasoline. A lot of you guys may have been noticing those gas prices climbing back up. This will only make it go even higher. Source said the U.S. must have reached full confidence in the past 10 days that Iran will target wherever it chooses. The U.S. bombed at least 3 bridges in Iran last week, and Trump has repeatedly threatened massive strikes across the country to destroy power plants, bridges, and desalination plants. The president has also been threatening to bomb Pickaxe Mountain, known as Kolang Ku, in Iran over alleged nuclear activity, which Iran denied on Wednesday. Iran's nuclear activities have been fully declared to the IAEA in accordance with safeguards obligations, as Mel Bagay, the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman, wrote on X. Washington's obsessive focus on Kolang Ku, where no nuclear activity is taking place, is nothing more than a fabricated pretext for aggression, destruction, and sabotage. Which it sounds like they're just looking for something. What's the expression I'm looking for there? They're clawing at any little thing to find something, some sort of whenever we have these intractable wars, there's always this next thing. Oh, this offensive, or ground troops here, or airstrikes. There's always this idea of well, what if we do this thing? There's always this supposed magic thing that if we do this, and this is one of them. So I think this is just a thing they're floating that, we'll strike this mountain. And it's I don't think it's going to do anything. All right. Also, with all of this going on, this is crazy, considering the context of everything that's happened in the past few years or so in relation to Iran, and really all of it. Apparently, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia are signing a nuclear agreement, the thing that this all was about, that could lead to Saudi uranium enrichment. So we're supposed to believe it's the absolute worst thing in the world for Iran to have nuclear enrichment. So keep in mind, that's what this is about, nuclear enrichment. And even with Iran in all of these nuclear deals, that's all they've said they've wanted. They want to have sovereignty, be allowed to enrich, since the enrichment's like a safeguard to where theoretically they could get a nuke in a certain period of time, but they don't want a nuke. That's their claim. But apparently this is good enough for Saudi Arabia. U.S. and Saudi Arabia signed a nuclear agreement on Wednesday, under which Washington will help Riyadh establish a nuclear program that could lead to uranium enrichment on Saudi soil. The Energy Department said the U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright and his Saudi counterpart Abdulaziz bin Salman Al Saud signed a deal known as a 123 agreement named after Section 123 of the Atomic Energy Act of 1954. The deal lays out terms for the transfers of U.S. nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia. According to the New York Times, the deal includes a provision that after a joint study with Saudi Arabia on the economics of producing nuclear fuel, the Saudis may be allowed to enrich uranium or reprocess plutonium on their soil. The agreement is notably different than the 123 agreement the U.S. signed with the UAE in 2009, which didn't allow uranium enrichment. Deal comes as the U.S. is waging a war against Iran that was launched in part over Iran's refusal to give up its uranium enrichment program, which has been effectively suspended since the June 2025 U.S. airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. During negotiations between the U.S. and Iran before the U.S. and Israel launched the current war, the U.S. demanded that Iran give up all new uranium enrichment and wouldn't accept Tehran enriching at levels far below what is needed for weapons-grade uranium. Common talking point among Trump administration officials was that a country like Iran that has a lot of oil and natural gas doesn't need an enrichment program. Iran wants to enrich some uranium. They don't need it. They don't need it so much with so much oil. I'm not satisfied. There will be no enrichment, not even to 20%, President Trump said on February 27th, 2020. Okay, that's definitely a typo. He said 2028, so I don't know when that's actually supposed to be. That's in the future. I guess Dave DeCamp's prophet. The day before he started bombing Iran. Hey, I'm just teasing to be clear. Typos happen. Saudi Arabia has more proven oil reserves than Iran and holds the second largest in the world behind only Venezuela. And yeah, to be clear, Dave DeCamp puts out a ton of work. So it's completely forgivable having the occasional I mean, with the amount he's producing, you have the occasional typo. Critics have warned the U.S.-Saudi deal won't do enough to prevent the Saudis from developing nuclear weapons in the future, while the Energy Department said the two countries also signed a safeguards agreement that would prevent proliferation. Rest assured, these agreements uphold the highest standards of nuclear safety and non-proliferation, said Chris Wright. So that should give you the warm and fuzzies, right? Saudi Arabia, what a great country to entrust with this, to essentially give the A-OK on nuclear capabilities, while Iran, for some reason, they're the biggest evil ever. I mean, which, just to recap, by the way, Saudi Arabia is kind of known for, it's funny, we get all these, like, every now and then you'll see the neocons talking about, well, in Iran, they don't like feminism or whatever, and it's like, dude, like, one of the biggest allies here is Saudi Arabia. Here we are, Saudi Arabia. Like, anything that you would accuse any other nation of, Saudi Arabia is generally basically doing roughly the same thing. So, pretty ridiculous. They also have more oil than I believe even Iran does. So, this argument that they need it or whatever is kind of silly, just in the same as Trump was saying about them earlier, but just absolutely ridiculous. Moving on. Let's check in on Gaza. Israel has killed 1,180 Palestinians in Gaza since the so-called ceasefire deal was signed. So, yep, a lot of people dead, and that's under a ceasefire. Keep that in mind. According to Israeli government's official numbers, 5 Israeli soldiers have been killed in Gaza over the same period. The last being one who was killed in February 2026 by Israeli forces in a friendly fire incident. So in this ceasefire, you have 5 Israelis, soldiers that have died, to 1,180 Palestinians. Totally checks out, right? The other 4 died as a result of combat in southern Gaza in October, when Hamas militants were trapped on the Israeli-occupied side of the Strip. Israeli attacks in Gaza have escalated in recent weeks, and the health ministry reported Wednesday that recorded the killing of 11 Palestinians over the previous 24 hours. So that's awful. A toll that includes a family of 6, a father, his wife, and their 4 children. We talked about this yesterday, unfortunately, I believe. Israel has also violated the ceasefire deal by taking more territory in Gaza and is now said to control about 70% of the Strip, despite the agreement leaving 53% of Gaza under Israel's control, and explicitly stating the IDF will not return to areas that have been withdrawn from. That's what they've done, as long as Hamas fully implements the agreement, which they have done. And Hamas had fulfilled its side of the deal by releasing all living Israeli hostages and bodies that it had and working to recover other Israeli remains. Israeli officials have claimed Hamas is violating the deal by not disarming, but the agreement signed in October 2025 didn't commit Hamas to giving up its weapons. 2 sides agreed to a U.S. peace framework that called for the demilitarization of Gaza as a framework for negotiations, but the issue of disarmament and the full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza were meant to be worked out in follow-up talks. Despite the daily Israeli attacks and frequent ground incursions, the Trump administration, the so-called Board of Peace, which is meant to oversee the implementation of the agreement, have remained quiet about Israel's constant violations. I actually remember we covered recently the Board of Peace has actually scrapped their plan that they had floated out before that was like kind of somewhat goodish, and even now that's being scrapped to looking like something along the lines of essentially a concentration camp being run by the United States. So just complete dystopian territory here. And let's check in on Lebanon. This is on the second day of Lebanon's army deploying into the pilot zone villages in the country's south. Officials are trying to make much of this being the beginning of an end to the Israeli military occupation of the entire country, while from Israel's perspective, the signs are that very little have changed. So it sounds like they're saying the Lebanese government officials are kind of hamming this up. Maybe some of the other ZOG people, maybe U.S. here or there, to kind of be like, ooh, look at this deal. Kind of JD Vance it, put some razzle dazzle on it, like, ooh, this deal, oh, look, we're making headway. These deals mean fucking nothing. So it looks like they're trying to act like this is, lots happening here. Like, ooh, they're pulling back from some of these zones that are meaningless. Israeli artillery attacks and drone strikes continue to pace, and in Borj al-Maluk, another village near the frontier in Nabatea district, Israeli troops raided a home, confiscated a man's passport, and searched his phones. I mean, at least we're not hearing about deaths, so that's a positive. The pilot zones are most of what's being reported internationally. However, with Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam making a high-profile visit to Zatwar al-Garbiya, surveying the rubble and touting the beginning of the Israeli withdrawal. Notably, there's still no indication of a withdrawal even being contemplated. President Ayoun visited the White House and got no commitment from Trump that a withdrawal was happening. And the American president only mentioning redeployments while continuing to raise the possibility of replacing an Israeli occupation with a Syrian one, despite Syria repeatedly rejecting that notion. The pilot zones indeed were always intended to be more symbol than substance, and when they began to be implemented on Tuesday, the reality was that very few Israeli troops were in those villages in the first place. The destruction was substantial, but the occupation was largely not. At least that was true before the pilot zones. Now those villages are meant to be occupied by the Lebanese military, at least the parts of the military that Israel finds tolerable, and substantial international pressure exists for the military to exert its control over those villages to prove they can be trusted to do so. There is some hope the replacement occupation that will allow displaced villagers to return and rebuild, but at this point, that's entirely speculative, and indeed, the Lebanese military aren't even letting everyone back in those villages, citing security concerns. So, with that, let's roll into the chat, say some more good mornings, and then we will get into our first segment of the day. ZOG Becomes Undeniable. Yep, Tom says freedom is being able to say the hard R with your chest. John Black says Jose, the kind of dad who takes his kids to the water park so he can ride the tall slide if he's tall enough to ride alone. I'm not really even a big water park guy, to be honest. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I guess it's like okay. I mean, what I really hate is like water stuff at like theme park. Like let's say I went to Busch Gardens. I think there's probably at least one water thing. I don't like water things at a theme park. Like I'm not a huge water park fan, but at least if you're like at a water park, it's a water park. Like that's what it is. Like you're coming there, you're getting wet, like you're accepting the idea that like you are just going to be like you bring a towel, like you're prepared. Like that's the whole ordeal. Whereas if you go to Six Flags, Busch Gardens, and any of the whatever Disney World, like almost all of them usually have like at least one like water thing, like oh the log thing, you come down, big splashy splash. I fucking hate those. I hate those so much. Like it's always been like with my kid, like with kids and the wife, like going to these places. It's always been like the deal has always been like, okay, we can do it, but it's the last thing we're doing because nothing to me is grosser than like getting wet and then being like, okay, cool. Now let's like walk around in the hot sun for 3 more hours. You're like, fuck me. No, that sounds awful. But now if you're just like, we're just slip and slide and all waters everywhere. It's whatever. It's cool. But yeah, anyways, I forgot what we're talking about water slides. I've never had an issue with the height thing with water stuff. Good morning, Sir Han Solo. Good morning. Yeah, Tom pointing out opposing countries' barrack is totally fair game in war. Yeah, it is. I mean, it feels like untoward at the very least, but like it's probably like the grossest of things within the like that's allowed. Good morning, Shannon Jones. Good morning. Good morning, John Black, with giving us 10 gems, which I still am not entirely sure what this is. Thanks for the made-up money. Now I have YouTube currency. Cool. Don't know what I do with this. Happy poop, he says. Good morning. Good morning, Real John Doe. And Bug Fights here saying, I agree. I'm not trying to be soggy in a roller coaster. Yeah, real gross feeling. Real gross. Good morning, Cubertamo, here to tell me I am ugly. Let's go ahead and get into the first titled segment of the day. ZOG Becomes Undeniable. If you're just popping in here, or even if you're not, hit that like button. You'd be surprised how few people do it. Goes a long ways. And do all the things, the hype, the whatever, every given place. If you're on Twitter, retweet, whatever thing. Takes 2 seconds. Takes no time whatsoever. The 5-star reviews go a long way too. No, people don't do those a lot, really. Like, it really doesn't take long at all, and almost no one does it. But with that, yeah, let's get into ZOG Becomes Undeniable. We got another anti-war article, because like I said, this is basically in this same vein. The House passes the 2027 NDAA with section to integrate U.S. and Israeli military. So we've been talking about this a decent amount over on this show. This is one of like a couple different bills they pushed. I forget about the other one if it did pass or not, but this is a pretty big one. This is essentially merging the U.S. military, this like aid to partnership idea that Netanyahu and all his neocon lackeys have been pushing. So the House on Wednesday passed its version with the massive $1.15 trillion 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, Which, keep in mind, one thing as we're reading this, like, this is what they just passed, or they're passing. I think there's probably going to be other stuff that needs to happen. I mean, we're going to get into this. But this right here is the NDAA. This is their essentially their regular, essentially it's a budget they're passing to some degree. Like, they're regularly passing the budget every year. And keep in mind, what is Congress's power? The power is the purse. I mean, they're supposed to also be the ones who declare war, but they've ceded that ground with all the War Powers Act nonsense. And now we have this silly little act that, like, it used to be just understood that, like, no, it was Congress who declared war. And then it was like, well, yeah, Congress does declare war, but the president can, like, enter conflicts for, like, given periods of time before it's really considered or whatever. And it's like, it's this weird gray territory. It's still technically unconstitutional. And then this later becomes a way to, like, read it, like, in a reverse way by the neocons. But either way, we actually recently had a concurrent resolution on the War Powers Act that was passed, essentially claiming, they're essentially showing this war, this Iran war, to be unconstitutional. Essentially, the Congress has voted against declaring that war, essentially. Like, so the idea is they should be, I guess, doing something. Like, I don't know, what a great example of, like, what government is. It's like, everyone always like, oh, what if we get this thing or that thing? And you're like, you got the thing. And what happened? Literally, so far it's looking like nothing. They literally then went and passed the budget. So it's like the budget that then goes to authorize, that then goes towards this war. Like, it's just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I mean, just what a fucking joke. Politics is, right? What a fucking joke. Like, you got, the Congress literally has said this war is not allowed, you can't do it, and then they still then go ahead and pass. So it's like, it's basically them saying, no, you're not going to do that. And then, like, okay, well, the only enforcement mechanism you have is the purse. And they're like, are you going to use that? No. I'm like, okay, well, then we're going to do whatever the fuck we want. The NDAA passed largely along party lines within a 216 to 212 vote. 7 Republicans voted against it and 2 didn't vote, meaning the Democrats could have blocked the legislation, but 6 Democrats voted yes on the sweeping military spending bill, despite President Trump's continued war against Iran, which was launched without congressional authorization. The Democrats who voted for the bill include Representatives Henry Cuellar, Donald G. Davis, Jared F. Golden, and Vicente Gonzalez, Adam Gray, and Marie Glusenkamp Perez. So for those who like to play these silly political games, which, as I pointed out, seems to not fucking matter anyways, I guess those are the guys you want to vote out. So if you're playing the Democrat game too, I guess. So that's Texas, North Carolina, that's Maine, Texas again, California, and Washington. And the Republicans who voted against the legislation, so these are the good guys here, Representative Thomas Massey, Chip Roy, Anna Paulina Luna, so ups for that, nice. I'm always a little suspicious of her, although, like I said, she's a younger politician, like we talked about this yesterday. It would be kind of fucking retarded for her to vote against it. Like, it would be like, oh, I don't want to have a political career, like, after just starting it. Harriet M. Hagman, Elijah Crane, Tim Burchett, which he's always a fun one. Something's endearing about him. And Josh Brecheen. The vote came after the House Rules Committee didn't allow a vote on an amendment introduced by Representative Massey to strip Section 219 from the NDAA. Ro Khanna, a Democrat from California who supported Massey's efforts, had said he would fight to strip this amendment in the conference between the House and the Senate when the two chambers negotiate the final NDAA. So it looks like, I think they still have this step later, so there's still other steps, but it's really not looking good. Senate's version of the NDAA also includes a provision to integrate the two militaries, but the legislation was blocked by Senate Democrats last week over Trump's war with Iran. So, okay, ups to the Democrats, which hasn't been authorized by Congress and has continued despite both chambers passing a concurrent war powers resolution directing the president to end the conflict. But there's more to this. There's this clip from Mel here that shared with what's his face, Boebert, Lauren Boebert. Let's check what she has to say. This is from TMD. Some like inside baseball of this vote. Let's hear let's see what Boebert has to say.
So I got a whole bunch of men trying to muscle me into voting for the NDAA. Section
names. Who?
I
Who
don't
are
know
these
their,
men?
I don't know their freaking names. They're staffers.
They staff.
All right, listen to my story. If you want my story, I'm
Sorry,
gonna give it
sorry,
to you.
sorry.
All right. So all these staffers are in there trying to get me to vote for the NDAA. I want to vote for the NDAA. Section 219 is still in there. It's a big tech swap between us and Israel. We don't do that with anyone. I understand in the past, we've given them money for the Iron Dome, and then they get to keep the tech, and we don't get any of it back. So I understand that, but it's a big issue on the left and the right. And many of my constituents have reached out. They don't want this provision in the bill. Well, the White House doesn't want it in the bill. Secretary Hegseth doesn't want it in the bill. So I'm in the back waiting for a call from
That right there. That is, I think, quite the claim. I'm going to put a massive fucking doubt on that. Because if that were the case, it wouldn't have fucking voted. The idea that the president and then Hegseth are against this, and that this was able to pass, that's fucking retarded. That's absolutely retarded. Like, if there was even the slightest murmur of a whisper that, Trump, the GOP front runner, essentially, I guess not front runner might not be the right word there, but essentially the centerpiece of the current right. If he was indicating he doesn't want to vote for, he doesn't want that, all he would have to do is indicate to these political actors, and they would have voted against it. So this is ridiculous. Although maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I guess there is some. Maybe there'd be onesie twosies. But yeah, no, this is ridiculous. Let's keep going.
Secretary Hegseth doesn't want it in the bill. So I'm in the back waiting for a call from the secretary. I'm told that call is coming. I'm talking to someone underneath him, and I'm told the vote's going to stay open. They closed the vote. And so now I'm forced to talk to TMZ. While I do have an issue that we talked about off record, I don't want to be on camera this week, and I've been on camera more than any other week. I am talking out of the side of my mouth like a damn politician because my Botox hasn't caught up on this side. Maybe in 2 days, this side will catch up to the other side. But here we are.
You actually, as she say that, you actually can notice like one side of her face is weirdly stiff. So okay, I mean, whatever. That was funny. But yeah, wild claim there. Mel points out, so if POTUS and Hegseth don't want Section 219 of the bill, why are they not speaking out about it publicly? Why is everyone in this administration such a friggin' coward? So just absolutely ridiculous. The other person made a point about how these staffers sound like handlers, so it sounds like Robert's trying to blame staffers for this. Like staffers are the ones that like move things around, which there might be some level of truth to like staffers manipulating things in this way, but I don't know. This falls flat for me. I don't know. What do you guys think? I know it's a little bit shorter segment. That's all I really have for this, but I did want to at least set it aside and give it some importance by giving it its own segment. But yeah, and I thought maybe I might end up having a little bit more for it too. But that's all we got here. What do you guys think? This is nuts. Like I said, it looks like there's going to be future votes on it. But unfortunately, with each subsequent vote, it's looking more and more set in stone. And I got to be real, unfortunately, that kind of looks like the way things are going. So once more to my conversation of don't join the military. Encourage, shame those to whatever degree you feel is appropriate against it or whatever. If there's or if I guess only if you feel like shame would be effective, or guide other people. Essentially, don't allow the norm to where like this is some sort of admirable thing or thing people should do, because it feeds into this. So great. All right, let's roll the chat. Checking on you guys one last time, and then we'll get, or not actually one last time. We'll have another time. Then we'll get into spook stuff, and I think maybe we'll have time for Polymarket. Maybe not. We'll see. Here's Mustache again. He says, I have a PDF that you all would appreciate. Covers the friendly Israeli-Iran relationship and the oil pipeline known as Eliat Eshkelon. This alliance goes back decades. The Iran-Israel war is kayfabe. John Black says, imagine having a friend that's a drug addict and you give them money and your family's money, but instead of being addicted to drugs, they're addicted to killing brown kids. Sean Newman says house cats have 32 muscles per ear and can reach 25 miles per hour. The more you know. Now that right now, Sean Newman, he already got a good morning. That's how you catch my interest right there. Fun fact, house cats have 32 muscles per year and they can run at 25 miles per hour. John Black says they have to pass an NDAA because the Constitution doesn't have a provision for a standing federal military. Yes, you are correct. It is like, I think you are correct. That's what I was going to get. I was thinking about delving into that, but it is like also in essence, like they are sort of like authorizing the future. It's sort of like passing the budget is kind of my understanding. Maybe I'm a little bit wrong. Maybe I'm a little retarded. But yes, it is also my understanding that like, yeah, that is, which is like a fun point I like to bring up sometimes. That it's like, so the fact that they vote yearly every year and pass the NDAA, and every single year the military gets passed, and the whole reasoning is because, well, we can't have a standing federal military, and a standing federal military would just be like a constant federal military that is just exists all the time. It's like, so the idea is you're supposed to have a temporary federal military. And so the idea, because they vote for it every year, it is still theoretically temporary, because there is the possibility that one of these times they don't pass it. So isn't it ridiculous? See how ridiculous it all is? Everyone does all this stupid, like, literally the oath of enlistment is a contradiction. So, I mean, it's always one of those ones that's fun to, because I made my oath. Like, no, your oath is fucking nonsensical. It's retarded. It makes no fucking sense. You're just literally, by doing that oath, you are essentially breaking the Constitution, essentially. At least the spirit. I guess you can play these J games and go, well, technically, we don't have a standing federal military because every single year we vote on the NDAA. Like, you have a standing federal military. Like, what are we talking about here? This is retarded. What else we got? Kubert says, Jose's ugly, but John Black is next level. Good morning, Daz, from across the pond. John Black throwing in a fuck Abraham Lincoln. I can support that big time. That's actually one of the big ones that got me demonetized for a long time, by the way, is talking shit on Abraham Lincoln and putting some respect on the Confederates. That's what got me demonetized for had to have been like probably almost a couple years at least, maybe, that I was demonetized. So, because I said essentially, and it was actually very, very tepid comments. I made very tepid comments, essentially kind of implying perhaps it's not just essentially the official narrative that you're given to you, that like, oh, the Union were the good guys, the Confederate were the baddies, and Abraham Lincoln was a saint, and and Wilkes Booth was a demon or whatever. Like, it's not that simple. So, all right, what else we got? See somebody else. Yeah, fuck Lincoln, says Bug Fights. All right, let's get into spook stuff. Like I said, one of these Fednapping victims is, or actually not one, we got multiple. Looks like they're out of here. Here's a tweet from Julie Kelly saying a scorecard for 14 FBI targets arrested in the FBI concocted plot to kidnap and kill Gretchen Whitmer. 6 men charged with federal kidnapping, conspiracy, weapons on mass destruction counts. 2 pleaded guilty, 2 acquitted after trial amid evidence of FBI entrapment. 2 received a hung jury at same trial, then convicted in second trial. 8 men charged with state kidnapping conspiracy counts. 2 pleaded guilty, 3 acquitted at trial amid evidence of entrapment. 3 convicted, now released. Abysmal record for Biden DOJ and AG Nessel on what was considered the most consequential domestic terror investigation / prosecution prior to January 6th. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court denied petition for a certificate to review convictions of Adam Fox and Barry Croft Jr., 2 men convicted of federal charges at second trial in August 2022. And what she's sharing here is a tweet from just, I guess, a few days ago. This is breaking. The Michigan Court of Appeals just vacated the convictions of 2 more guys in the Whitmer kidnapping case. I don't know how I missed this. This is from a few days ago. Paul Beller and Pete Musico are now free, same as Joseph Morrison last month, which I remember we did cover that last month. The ruling stated the jury was wrongly told kidnapping automatically counts as a violent felony and act of terrorism. Court disagreed and said that charge doesn't hold up against the law or under the law. Dana Nessel, that's their AG, is furious, calling it linguistic gymnastics and vowing to appeal. It's fair to assume FBI informants drove most of this and entrapped these men. Now the state's terrorism case is falling apart on a basic legal technicality. Whitmer and Nessel milked this story for years, and the convictions keep getting vacated. So super happy to see more of these guys going free. I kind of feel bad for the guys who pled guilty. It's not looking good. But hey, just fucking, this is awesome. Seeing more of these guys go free. I did not imagine that this this would play out this way. I was definitely far more like when I was covering this Whitmer stuff, back when it was at its not its height, I guess before anyone else was covering it, back when like basically just Radix and like Julie Kelly were covering it. I really did not have. I figured I knew, like, obviously we had the one guy that I've had in my show. I can't think of his name right now. I'm really annoyed. Like it's really bugging me. I can't think of his name. But anyways, like we had the one guy that was on the show. But anyways, so like he got off because he fought it, but I did not really like. He was the one guy who was actually, I think, initially able to get off in the trial, and not like later on appeals and this and that and other like political stuff. But I was nowhere near as hopeful as like this happening. So hopefully these keep rolling out. This is awesome, and hopefully we learn our lesson. It's a little bit concerning when we kind of see overtures toward the same thing, but on the flip side. Which, speaking of which, here's Secretary of State Rubio basically saying just that.
Last November, the State Department designated 4 violent far-left extremist groups as foreign terrorist organizations, and there will be more designations soon. Last November.
So, looking to target more left-wing groups, which I'm not necessarily a fan of lefties per se. I mean, there's some cool lefties out there, but generally speaking, not quite my cup of tea. But either way, still leaves something to be concerned about a big time. So then following this up, we got just the other day, this is the 16th, about a week ago. It says today the State Department is imposing new visa restrictions to bar far-left terrorists from entering our country. Foreigners who finance, incite, or aid and abet far-left terrorists are enemies of our civilization. They are not welcome in the United States. So with that, let's look over at the government website here. Let's look into the details here. I'm kind of curious. Let's get a little bit more here because it's like what that sound on its face. That doesn't sound too bad because you're like, oh, terrorists. That sounds really bad. You know, obviously, usually the implications there's some sort of violence of some sort, particularly the political kind, being implied here. Unfortunately, that word is more and more losing value to where that's not at all what it means. So that's why we should take the time to just look a little bit into the fine, the fine print a little bit. So here is a little more information from the state itself on visa restriction policy targeting far left terrorists and other aligned groups. So let's I don't have it up. Here we go. Let's take it. This says far-left terrorists and aligned groups often use sophisticated organized networks to perpetrate violence as a political tool, seeking to implement an extreme political vision. I'm also kind of looking for here to like defining what you mean by this, because like what do you when you say far-left? It's because we've already seen examples with this new like memorandum and stuff they have of like being like, oh, we're going after left-wing this or that, but then they'll like arbitrarily define something that's nobody really here would consider left-wing and maybe even consider it more right than the right-wingers. And they'll be like, well, because we vaguely associate this with a left-wing issue, it's a left-wing thing. Anyways, so continue on. It's a strategy that explicitly aims to undermine the political foundations of free and self-governing societies, utilizing bombings, assassinations, and other forms of terrorism to silence speech, limit political opposition, change policy outcomes, and sabotage political processes. Today, in support of national security, Presidential Memorandum 7, an ongoing U.S. government efforts to disrupt networks fomenting political violence before they escalate to criminal action, the Department of State is announcing a new visa restriction policy that's fomenting political violence is what they're doing. Is doing the lifting here, it seems. They're announcing a new visa restriction policy that targets members of far-left terrorists and other aligned groups who have supported or incited acts of terrorism, supported violent criminal activity, participated in economic sabotage. Yeah, what does that mean? Because that sounds like you could be that could be targeting people like BDS sort of stuff. Or BDS? Am I got that wrong? Boycott, divest, sanction. Yeah, the essentially the boycott Israel movement, the BDS, what's called. So that could include stuff like that, which, I mean, most people would associate with the left-wing thing, but that's just an anti-Israel thing or anti-Zionism thing. So that could be counted here too. So now congrats. You no longer are applicable to come to the United States because you are against Israel. It sounds like it's being pretty arbitrarily interpreted. So kind of can do whatever they want with it, which they've already done. We covered in this show, there was that, I think it was like a comedian or something who came to the States, and he essentially got deported. He got essentially put in a detention center for like, I think something like a week or two, ended up getting deported. He had come over here completely legit, was just on like a speaking tour sort of thingy, and because he was generally anti-Israel, Rubio essentially, I think maybe Loomer might have been involved in that one, you fucking gave him the axe. It's just great. Like, I understand, and I mean, I know I'm not necessarily a immigration hawk like some people in my audience are, but like, come on, this is like a whole other thing. Like, what are we doing here? You're giving arbitrary defining power to a government that is looking for things to arbitrarily define. So, the departments did. All right, where were we at? Sorry. The policy will safeguard the American homeland by restricting entry of foreign nationals who finance, recruit, or incite or otherwise enable terrorist, violent, and criminal far-left terrorist networks, closing the visa pathways that far-left terrorists and other aligned groups exploit to threaten American lives, undermine economic stability, and coordinate violent action on U.S. soil. I've heard a lot of people saying this will probably be applied to a lot of Cuba stuff too, because apparently a lot of the left-wing groups do have a lot of ties to like Cuban movements and stuff, and which, I mean, I don't know, Cuba is fair to come to the essentially advocate for the plight of them, although some of them are, I guess, coming from like a communist angle or whatever. But anyways, that seems to be what a lot of people are thinking they might be getting at, applying the left-wing thing. There might be some Cuba stuff picking up here soon. That's been something they've been signaling for quite a long time, a big move on Cuba. So a lot of people thinking maybe that could be tied into that. But, I mean, this can kind of, the way I'm reading this is so arbitrary, it could be really interpreted to mean all sorts of things. So continuing on, let's check in on another Fed story here. Let's check in on the Gate. For those who don't recall, the Blaze, Glenn Beck's Blaze, ran a story on Shawnee Kirkhoff, the what was she, like a Capitol Police person, essentially claiming she was the bomber, or she was the suspect or whatever. Essentially, and now here we are with a lawsuit, and because they basically got way over their skis, all on account of this Gate thing that a lot of people may remember. We actually brought Steve Baker, the author of these articles, on the show a while back. Me and Ken, we had Steve Baker, and then Baker kind of had like his other moderator. Oh man, I'm really Steve Friend. I almost forgot his name. So, and he was kind of like his his moderator. It's a little more biased, or obviously I'm more biased towards Ken. So if you guys do really want to get into details of all of that, but yeah, we brought him on the show. We basically got him to completely admit that all of this is just all on a trust me, bro. So, which, don't get me wrong, I'm fully willing to buy that the Capitol Police were part of this whole J6 pipe bombing story, that there's a conspiracy afoot, but also on the flip side, the way that this went down is the perfect way to essentially cover your tracks. If you were, let's say Shawnee Kirkhoff was part of this. Let's say she was part of this J6 pipe bombing, whatever. She was the one who planted it at the DNC or the GOP, or had some part in this. The way that the Blaze went about this and completely went way over their skis, making crazy claims, is really kind of the perfect way to cover up your tracks. A good little kind of essentially cover your tracks on the way out. That way, like, now we have this lawsuit. He's likely probably going to lose or essentially drop the case or something. Something will happen. I doubt he will win. And then this will kind of have a stink to it. It'll kind of be like, oh, this will kind of, anyone who has conspiracies about the pipe bomb stories, will kind of put a damper on that. That seems to be the move. But either way, we have some updates on what's going on there, and it seems to be kind of basically predictable, kind of a lot what we figured where things were going to go. So here we go. This was back in about a couple weeks ago, back July 10th. The Blaze has filed a motion to dismiss Shawnee Kirkhoff's lawsuit. Among other arguments, Blaze says its now retracted article never actually accused Shawnee of being this J6 pipe bomber, but simply said there was a 94% match in the Gate between her and the bomber, which, I mean, yeah, I mean, the way they went about it, I mean, we could get into the details. They very clearly, I forget the specific words they use, but anyone who was reading at the time was like, they are saying they're a suspect. They're basically saying Shawnee did it. I mean, maybe they can find ways to weasel out of that. I mean, to be clear, I'm not a fan of defamation law or any of this stuff anyways. I mean, hell, I just pointed out how it's kind of the perfect little methodology for the feds to kind of cover their tracks. You have some lawsuit that's generally sort of covered. It makes these people making crazy claims, way over, kind of makes them look ridiculous after the fact, and by extension kind of makes the rest of us who think something else happened there kind of look ridiculous. Continuing on here, just a little bit later after that, about a few days later, we got another update. Apparently, Shawnee Kirkhoff and Steve Baker have reached an agreement where Baker will pay her attorney fees in exchange for the default against him being set aside. Shawnee says she looks forward to litigating her claims on the merits. Now, I don't know if Tyler is in the chat. Tyler, if you are in the chat, sound off on this. Give us your lawyerly input here. What does this necessarily mean? So does this in any way necessarily imply, like, how do I say it? Does this in any way imply the strength of the case one way or the other, where it's essentially they've agreed that Baker will pay her fees in exchange for the default being set aside? So I guess I just don't really know like what that really even implies. Let's read a little bit more from this legal paperwork or legal documentation. Maybe it'll give us some more here. So we can see payment here. In consideration of the agreement, defendants Baker and Hanneman have agreed to pay a portion of plaintiff's attorney fees and costs incurred as a result of their default. And then we have 4, withdrawal of opposition. Plaintiff withdraws the opposition, consents to the setting aside of the entries of default. Plaintiff welcomes the resolution of her claims on the merits. So I don't really necessarily, I know I did kind of front this. Like I said, this is a show we're kind of processing things in real time. I did kind of front this as it doesn't look good. I don't know if this necessarily looks good or bad, so I don't really have a strong opinion on it currently. So, yeah, we'll see. Now, here's the one actually he quote tweeted. I missed this one. So this is like before this. It says, ex-police officer Shawnee Kirkhoff opposed Steve Baker's et al. Motions to set aside their default, saying they've thumbed their nose at legal process the last 2 months. And then shared examples. She attached screenshots of Baker's ex posts of examples of said nose thumbing. Here's one of these examples. It says, lawsuit, you have no idea what we have. What you have unleashed. Discovery is a bitch. Bring it is one of them. So I guess these are coming up in here. It says Baker further derided the legal process by crude use of pop culture memes. Same day appeared on the Rob Maness podcast. He posted an X. 2 days later, when an X user asked Baker whether he would move his plaintiff's complaint, he responded, "Who knows?" So I guess I don't really know what like the specific here of what's so bad about that. I mean, I will say this stupid and boomerish, and I don't buy it. Like the way he's like kind of talking, like, "Oh wait, when we get to Discovery," like I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this plays out. I don't know. Maybe I'll be dazzled. Maybe I'll be dazzled by this guy. Actually, let's back up even more to give a little more context here. So to understand what we're talking about here. So even before this, where Steve Baker filed a motion to set aside the default entered against them for not responding to Shawnee Kirkhoff's lawsuit. Okay, so there was a default entered against them. This was for not responding, because we have covered this in the past. Apparently, he was basically just not responding to the lawsuit for a long period of time. Essentially, and they say they couldn't afford an attorney and were looking to blaze for one. So that's their argument of why they kind of weren't responding. They also say they have a First Amendment defense. Hearing is set for next month. That was a month ago. So let me see. Let's more. What is more on this default? It says the clerk of court does hereby enter the default of Steve Baker for failure to plead or otherwise defend as provided by the federal rules of civil procedure. So I guess the idea of like you can't reach somebody, you go to some sort of legal default. The plaintiff is directed to file a motion for default judgment pursuant to the federal rule of civil procedure. Okay, I mean, if we're going to legal experts, definitely chip in and tell if you can more, like what is this, any specifics or relevant info on a default judgment here, but I guess it's in response to like when somebody's just ignoring them. So, so like we said, we covered earlier, Steve Baker has essentially been ignoring the shit out of all of this. All right, let's move on past this. Let's talk about this glowy story now. This is on October 7th. We talked about this story a while back. It's another one of Ken's pieces. This person they picked up in Louisiana that was supposedly part of the October 7th attack. And we covered it's kind of like, wow, like, oh shit, they're picking up October 7th attackers over here in the States. Well, apparently there's a little bit more to the story here. This is a DOJ central witness against the alleged October 7th attacker arrested in Louisiana last year, an Israeli agent whose identity is classified under Israeli law. This witness is to testify under the pseudonym Avi about all the evidence collected by the IDF. The defense has also raised concerns that any witnesses they may want to interview are all stuck in Gaza. So interesting how that works. So here we go. Here it says all. This is from legal documents. Here it says all the exhibits at issue were found on Hamas devices seized by Israeli defense forces in Gaza during the war that erupted as a consequence of the Hamas attacks on October 7th. The U.S. will establish their authenticity at trial through the testimony of Avi, a Hamas expert and a longtime employee of the Israeli security agency. It's a completely non-biased source. That's great. He currently works as a director of the Research and Assessment Division in the Israeli National Bureau of Counterterrorism Financing. Yeah, this seems completely ironclad, closed and shut or whatever, open and shut. Go ahead and lock them up, guys, right? Seems completely legit. All right, let's roll the chat, say some more good mornings, and then I guess it looks like maybe we have a little time to do a little bit of reading, get through at least one of these segments of the story, the Polymarket stuff. But yeah, let's check the chat, checking on YouTube, people see what you guys got to say. Hard Ara here. Nice name. Says, man, we got 2 lives in a row. My life is either in shambles or doing great. I can't tell. User chatted, yes, I did turn the dawn around. Now we got the product placement here. So yeah, I did turn around for John Black just the other day. Tom33 pointing out the obvious, going after leftists will quickly just turn into going after non-Zionists. All right. Well, geez, you guys are pretty quiet. All right, let's do our reading of Polymarket. But before we get into that, I kind of want to front this with another fun little connection story. Once again, kind of tying into Andrew Tate, and it will even also tie back into some of these other characters we'll be talking about, or we have talked about in all these this Polymarket stuff. But here's another tweet from Jay Wilderness. It says, Andrew Tate's lawyer is Joseph McBride, who was part of Keith Rainier's defense team, the leader of sex cult NXIVM, who was handed a sentence of 120 years in prison, which this is one of these ones that one of these days I need to do an episode on NXIVM. It is an interesting one. I've gone on a few of my own personal little deep dives on YouTube rabbit holes and stuff like that, being like, whoa, pretty nuts shit happened there. Pretty interesting. A lot of times most people might remember it's Chloe from Smallville, the blonde chick, the friend-zoned girl. She ended up being a prominent figure in this cult, one of the higher ups. That's which was kind of weird. Very for anyone who watched the show, it was very much like she was kind of chipper, like buddy, always there to help, and fighting for just it was a pretty hammy show. But it was just funny that then she's in this sex cult with all sorts of big people like the Bronfmans and stuff like that. Just kind of wild. But I did just mention the Bronfmans, and we've been talking about Teal and stuff like that. So this is NXIVM. I think one of their major donors were the Bronfmans. I think there was some sisters, if I'm recalling correctly. At least one of the Bronfmans was a chick. And funny enough, Peter Thiel's one of his gay boyfriends, I guess that's kind of redundant, right? One of his boyfriends who, I don't remember when it was, who fell off, was the second or third story. That house actually that he died in, that he, kind of fell, he just kind of tripped to his death, or got really sad. It definitely wasn't a murder, and it definitely wasn't days after there was this big party, big event where Teal's husband got upset that his butt boy showed up. Completely irrelevant, right? Well, the place where that happened, I was actually, funny enough, one of the Bronfmans' houses, or it was the Bronfmans' house before that, and it was one of the Bronfmans who was involved in the NXIVM cult. So, kind of a fun little world. How small the webs they weave are, But with that, let's get into this reading. Let's get into the secret history of Polymarket. Probably do 10 minutes or so. Maybe get through one of these. We covered, I think last one, we covered privatizing the IAO, kind of how they went from this public DARPA, dead entity into this, revitalized it as this private thing. And this is how we end up with the Facebooks, the Polymarkets, and a number of the different tools that Teal was playing with out there. That was one thing we focus in on today. We'll be talking about Shane Copland, who ends up being the founder of Polymarket. So now we'll be honing in on him after going through the history and kind of going through how other such similar things have gone from public to private. So let's get into the founder here. So Shane Copland, the eventual founder of Polymarket, was raised in New York City, the only child of 2 South African college professors. He was raised, however, solely by his mother, with Shane later describing his father as a mad scientist who studied panic disorders. Growing up middle class, Copland developed a major itch at a young age to make money, which reportedly drove his early interest in file-sharing websites, as well as later the nascent cryptocurrency industry. As he developed this itch to aggressively pursue wealth, Copland simultaneously developed an obsession with the background and early rise of early 2000s tech entrepreneurs who went on to be billionaires. Specifically, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg. Copland was smart, yet unmotivated, and felt like he didn't stand out enough to compete alongside his peers by conventional means. He would later tell New York Magazine, "I think having a background that was so uncredentialed, it was very clear to me I was a goner if I was going to go the path that everyone else was going and just try and compete there." Copland ultimately determined that he would have to emulate his role models much more closely if he truly wanted to follow their example and reap the rewards. The mindset soon pushed a 16-year-old Copland to pursue an internship at what was then one of the city's hottest startups, Genius, a lyric and web annotation company originally known as Rap Genius. Copland had repeatedly attempted to contact Genius's co-founders who ignored his emails. This led him to travel straight to Genius's office, where he successfully pitched himself to the people actually running the company. Christopher Glazik, the then executive director or editor of Genius, later wrote that within minutes of meeting him, I learned that Shane possessed near encyclopedic knowledge of major tech entrepreneurs, and he eagerly volunteered to add annotations to the Wikipedia pages of Mark Zuckerberg and Travis Kalanick, who that is the guy who did Uber. During the course of his Genius internship, Copland became the site's top expert on the Facebook founder. Notably, Genius was a 2011 Y Combinator company. That same year saw Yuri Milner and Ron Conway's SV Angel become intimately involved with the startup incubator. Milner was an important early investor and an advisor to Facebook. Conway's significant connections to the people behind Facebook are discussed later in this article. 2011 was also the year that Sam Altman, widely recognized as Peter Thiel's protege, became a partner at Y Combinator. Altman would later take over the leadership of the incubator in 2014. In 2014, Shane Copland discovered Ethereum and participated in its initial coin offering that same year. He subsequently developed a financial incentive to support Ethereum's progress. A since-deleted biography of Copland states that Copland moved to San Fran sometime in 2016 to intern at Chronicled, which Copland described as one of the first venture-funded Ethereum startups. There, he says, he was immersed amongst a team of blockchain-obsessed tinkerers. It was there where his eyes were open to the vast possibilities of decentralized applications. According to past press releases, one of Chronicle's goals as a company included creating a world in which physical and digital experiences are fully synchronized by offering a turnkey solution to securely register any asset identity, from art to automobiles to drones to secure shipping containers and pharmaceuticals to the blockchain. One of Chronicled main investors at the time was Pantera Capital, whose co-chief investor officer was Joey Krug. Around that time that Copland interned at Chronicled. That's an awful name. Krug, a Thiel fellow who had co-founded the Ethereum-based prediction market Augur, would subsequently join Thiel's founder fund. There, he would become a crucial early investor in Polymarket. Krug, Augur, and their significance of story are explored later in this article. Armed with glowing recommendations from his former superiors at both Genius and Chronicled, Copland was admitted to NYU to study computer science and began attending in 2016. However, he quickly became bored and disillusioned. He eventually dropped out halfway through his second semester to pursue blockchain projects full-time. Shortly thereafter, in 2017, Copland subsequently created a company called Token Union, which offered rewards for holding either Ethereum or ERC20 tokens. Initially framed itself as the world's first Ethereum-based savings account. Token Union was originally founded as Token Bank, and one of its former employees, Yash Patel, not Cash Patel, Yash, for real, has claimed that this company was a direct predecessor of Polymarket. Notably, one of the domains used by Token Bank, Token Union, tokenunion.io now redirects to union.market, another Kaplan domain. The shift in Token Union domains over the years from Token Bank to Token Union to Union Market and finally to Polymarket and Polymarket.com seems to suggest that Patel was right. Lending further support this theory is the fact that all of those domains now redirect to Polymarket. Oddly, any discussion of Token Union is absent from essentially every media profile of Copland that has been written since Polymarket achieved breakout success a few years ago. All those media profiles paint Copland's success as derivative of pure luck and assure the reader that Polymarket began in 2020 with no real predecessor. In one of those recent media profiles, Copland asserted he had picked the Union Market because of a New York eatery he enjoyed at the time. Though he acknowledged the Union.market was focused on yield-bearing digital assets, neither he nor the article make any mention of this company Token Union. This is despite that the relationship documented above between the Token Union and Union Market domains. One must wonder why Token Union has seemingly been ripped out of the narrative, not just by mainstream media stenographers chronicling Copland's and Polymarket's rise, but also by Copland himself. One of the reasons that Token Union has seemingly been erased from current narratives about both Copland and Polymarket may lie in Token Union's close partnership and integration with Bancor. Bancor was created by Guy and Galia Bernardzi, the nephew and niece of longtime and current Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Bing, 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 bing. Galia Bernardzi, immediately prior to creating Bancor, had been a partner at Peter Thiel's Founder Fund. Oh, throwing that ass back at the barbecue, baby, where she helped lead the firm's investment in Israel. One of the main tokens showcased in Token Union's promotional material is Bancor's BNT token, and Bancor is listed among its small list of official partners. Token Union's white paper also touted its integration with Bancor. You know, that thing like the nephew and nieces of Netanyahu are running. You know, they're also partners at Peter Thiel's Founder Fund. Banker advisor Lou Kerner was also Token Union advisor alongside Jim Hatch, with whom Kerner created Crypto Oracle. Crypto Oracle was founded in 2017. At the time its founders advised Copland's Token Union, it focused on supporting early-stage blockchain firms. This strongly suggests that Crypto Oracle had backed Copland's company, which later claimed to have raised millions in a private pre-sale from undisclosed sources. Like Bancor, Crypto Oracle is also listed as a Token Union partner. Kerner has major connections to Israeli tech startup scene, which even former Mossad directors have noted is stuffed with Israeli intelligence veterans, and which, per official Israeli policy, is full of Israeli intelligence fronts, posing as private companies in order to execute projects that were previously performed in-house by Israeli intelligence apparatus. Kerner, who boasts close ties to AIPAC, previously led the Israeli Founders Syndicate and is a current advisor of the Israeli Blockchain Association. Kerner is also partnered in Israeli tech incubator alongside Glilot Capital. Glilot Capital was created by two Israeli military intelligence veterans who invest specifically in entrepreneurs who emerge from the elite unit 8200 Signal Intelligence Unit, often linked to Israel's equivalent of the NSA. So these people exclusively invest in 8200 members, so seems significant. Kerner is notably also a renowned expert on Facebook, not unlike Copeland himself, and claims to have once been offered a quarter of Facebook shares by an unknown but clearly major Facebook shareholder. He has since declined to specify the extent of his Facebook holdings. Kerner has claimed to have unsuccessfully pitched Zuckerberg to sell him a significant stake in Facebook while Zuckerberg was still a student at Harvard. This suggests that another very early investor or figure at Facebook, aside from Zuckerberg, had tipped Kerner off to the social media company very early on. Since then, Kerner had also become an investor in Palantir, the privatized TIA that is chaired and was co-founded by Peter Thiel. Kerner previously worked at Bill Gross's Idea Lab, the first institutional investor in the Thiel-founded company PayPal. In addition to Kerner, Crypto Oracle's other co-founder, Jim Haft, as well as another Crypto Oracle employee, Jim Dix, are also listed as Token Union advisors. Dix is notably listed as a former SEC prosecutor and was previously a vice president at Deutsche Bank. Notably, Kerner is not only the banker advisor, who was also an advisor at Copland's Token Union. Steve Narioff, considered the legal architect of Ethereum's 2014 ICO, was simultaneously an advisor to Bancor and to Token Union. An archived version of Token Union's website refers to Narioff as the co-creator of Ethereum. Prior to Ethereum's ICO, the Ethereum white paper, kind of close here, published by Vitalik Buterin in 2014, made note of an alternative consensus mechanism to proof to work, which had been popularized by Bitcoin and Ethereum 1.0. This alternative consensus mechanism was called proof of stake. Proof of stake removes the mining of digital assets via large amounts of compute of specific hashing algorithms, and instead creates a randomized lottery system that selects validators based on a weight of shares held in the system. In this case, how much ETH one holds in a staking contract. Instead of POW rewarding a Bitcoin miner with transaction fees for finding the next block of transactions based purely on how many hashes they can compute, POS rewards ETH validators with transaction fees in the form of more ETH, the amount of which is based on how many ETH you already own. While the mechanics are novel in their own right, the reality of such a system is that large capital allocators within the ETH system have a larger stake on consensus simply for holding the asset, in addition to generating yield on their stash of tokens simply for holding them. Prior to the fall 2022 transition to POS, termed the merge, the Ethereum Foundation worked closely with stealth startup and Palantir subcontractor Antithesis to test the new consensus mechanism. In addition, one of the main forces behind the Ethereum blockchain's move to POS was Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin, who had been promoting POS since at least 2017. Buterin is also a Thiel Fellow who was closely connected to the founding and development of the Ethereum-based prediction market platform Augur, which was co-founded by another Thiel Fellow, Joey Krug. However, long before Ethereum allowed token holders to earn yield on their ETH stacks via POS, projects like Banker and Coblin's Token Union allowed token holders to earn ETH for simply holding ERC20 tokens, such as the Ogden token REP. Augur's REP and Banker's BNT were both advertised on Token Union's website. In addition, the CEO of Token Union, Coplin attended and was a featured speaker at high-profile blockchain and crypto-related conferences alongside executives at major firms like Meta, Microsoft, R3, Visa, Pantera Capital, and so on. At the World Blockchain Forum conference in November 2018, Coplin's speech was titled The Napsterization of Finance. Sometime between 2018 and 2019, Coplin contacted Augur's co-founder Joey Krug, both to complain about Augur's interface and to pitch him on investments. Krug made up a random target volume at $5 million per week and told Coplin he would invest if he reached it with his proposed prediction market venue. Around the same time in 2019, Coplin also reached out to none other than Robin Hanson, the system architect of DARPA's PAM. Coplin that year claims to have first stumbled upon a Hanson paper entitled Shall We Vote on Values But Bet on Beliefs? That Hanson paper, being the most inspirational to Coplin, is notable as it is the paper where Hanson proposes a system of governance based on prediction markets called Futurarchy. After reading this paper per New York Magazine, Coplin proclaimed to Hanson in a verbose email with multiple block paragraphs that he wanted to be the person to bring prediction markets to life. Hanson, who was also advising Krug's Augur at the time, is said to have largely brushed off Coplin. Coplin went on to officially create Polymarket in June 2020, reportedly due to the COVID-19 crisis, forcing him to alter course for his previous project, Union Market, and Coplin having recently been inspired by the work of both Hanson and Austrian economist Friedrich Hayek. As the story goes, Coplin then went on to himself and built Polymarket alone in his bathroom. That's always, in my garage, in my bathroom, in my apartment. Fucking Tony Stark did this in a cave or whatever. I don't know. My kid always said this. I think it's like a meme on TikTok or something, or like where it's like that one line from where like Tony Stark built this in a cave, or I'm fucking up the line or whatever. But either way, anyone who has kids may know what I'm talking about. Or have watched the Marvel movies. However, the official narrative we have been told of Coplin and his early interactions with figures like Krug and Hanson, as demonstrated thus far in this article, another key part of his official narrative around Coplin and Polymarket is a lie. Coplin did not come out of nowhere with Polymarket in 2020 with no real prior footprint or industry connections. Coplin, well before 2020, was speaking at high-profile conferences alongside top executives at some of the biggest companies in the industry, while also attracting, per Token Union's own claims, millions in private funding and advisors and partners with clear and obvious ties to both the private and public sector of Israel and significant ties to top people in the early Ethereum network. In order to paint Coplin's success with Polymarket as an anomaly and manufacture the appearance of luck. Token Union has been written out of the narrative. Given this effort to obfuscate Polymarket's apparent predecessor company, of which Copland was CEO, one cannot help but wonder what else has been intentionally left out of the story. Now, I know I did start this out saying this might be the last time I cover this. I'm not going to lie, it drew me back in. This segment, I got pretty interested in some of the people I'm seeing. And the next segment is quartering the Tealverse. So I think it's going to go even more down that road, digging into all of that. So I'm excited. Hope you guys are too. Sound off in the comments or chat if you do want more of these, or if you really are over them. Man, I basically hit it right on time, right at about an hour and a half. I guess I have just enough time to squeeze through the chat one last time. Say any more hellos, good mornings, whatever. Say goodbyes to anyone I haven't really hit up yet. So, and then we'll get out of here. Shit, I just realized I don't have an outro ready for you guys. No, whatever. I got one right. There you go. Boom. I got it all set up now. But yeah, let's check in on you guys. See what you guys got to say. Mustache says Kirchhoff reminds me of the Alex Jones Sandy Hook trial. I believe the AJ case was to set precedent for defamation/duress, i.e., words cause harm to the families. Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. This discredit false flag Sandy Hook theories, make skeptics tight-lipped going forward in the chance they can be sued. Exactly. John Black says, apparently Whitney Webb has a podcast now. I did not know that. They just talked about this piece that I've already read twice. It has the name as the website, Unlimited Hangout. Cool, I'll have to check that out. I did not know they have a podcast, so I'm down. That's awesome. All right, let's get out of here. Marty Mac, right at the end, says good morning and goodbye. I've been here just listening and enjoyed it, Jose. Thank you, Marty Mac. Hope you have a good day. I should see you guys tomorrow unless for whatever reason I go out. Oh, yeah, there's like an off chance I might go take my oldest to the beach. The youngest is off at camp, and so figured I'd take a time to just have my older daughter daddy day kind of thing. I've done a few things with my youngest, and it's time to go take the oldest out to do something. So I might be out tomorrow. Depends. She may end up go hang out with a friend or something, but I might take the kiddo out to the beach tomorrow. So there's a small chance I might be out. We'll see. It's a lot of moving parts, but if not, if I don't see you tomorrow, I should see you guys Monday or something like that. But with that, if you like what you see here, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, comment, hit that, or get the 5-star reviews going on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well. On Twitter, that's at Tower Gang Jose. Everywhere else, it's a No Way Jose podcast. And if you want to support the show the best way you can do that with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. Up here in the top left-hand corner, you got a QR code. You can use that as well. The low of $2, you get a whole host of perks. I usually do 1 to 2 episodes per week. I've been really bad this week. Both my people had to reschedule. Whatever. We're going to make up for it next week. So sorry. I usually keep 3 or 4 behind the paywall. There's still actually not. I pretty much always keep 3 or 4 behind the paywall. There's 4 behind the paywall right now. Also give you guys access to ad-free RSS feed, the Telegram, the pre-show, the post-show, and video calls. And me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which goes out on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Also give a big shout out to the highest level of my Patreon. It's a big thank you for their support. And my previous Ghost and Tower Gang, Outland Toad, also at Abrigades, at ZVRSK, at Dunscore, Infinite Zeal, Tim Tell, at John Klebo, big fan of the show, Torment, at Wayne Tackles, Mark for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, Jacob Murgab, Biblical Anarchy Podcast, and John Black. You beautiful bastard. And with that, guys, here's a fun little outro for you. Kind of threw it together last second. I totally forgot to get the outro ready, so real quick, just random little cute video of kiddos. Who doesn't like those? Kiddos and farm animals. That's always great. So with that, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Enjoy this cute little video of kiddos versus animals.
Tatum, turn around. Oh. Oh. Oh.